The phone rang at 7:43 a.m. on a Tuesday, jolting me awake from the first decent sleep I'd had in weeks. I should have let it go to voicemail. "Is this Alexis Harrison?" The woman's voice was sharp, clipped with barely contained fury. "Yes, this is Alexis. Who's calling?" "This is Viviana, your landlord. We need to talk, now." My stomach dropped. I sat up in bed, suddenly wide awake. "What's wrong?" "What's wrong? 3 months of unpaid rent, that's what's wrong. $12,000, Alexis. Where's my money?" The words hit me like a physical blow. "I'm sorry, what? 3 months? That's impossible. I don't even live there anymore." "Don't play dumb with me. Your name is on the lease. Your credit got you that apartment. And now your parents are living there rent-free while I'm getting screwed over." My parents, of course. 6 months ago, my mother Giselle had called me crying. Real tears, the kind that made her mascara run in perfect streaks down her cheeks. She'd perfected that look over the years. "Alexis, honey, we're in trouble. The landlord is selling our place and we have nowhere to go. Your father's credit is shot from that business thing, and mine, well, you know how it is." I did know how it was. Giselle had a talent for maxing out credit cards and forgetting to pay bills. It was a family tradition at this point. We just need someone to co-sign for us, just until we get back on our feet. "You're so responsible, sweetheart. You're the only one who can help us." She'd grabbed my hands across the coffee shop table, her grip desperate. "We're family, Alexis. Family helps family. It's just a signature." What could go wrong? Everything, apparently. "Viviana, I need you to slow down," I said into the phone, my voice steadier than I felt. "When did the rent stop being paid?" "January, February, March. It's now April, in case you forgot. I've been calling your parents for weeks. Your mother keeps telling me Alexis will handle it, and hanging up on me. Of course she did. I'll call them right now and figure this out." "No, you'll figure this out today. I'm filing for eviction tomorrow if I don't have my money. All of it, plus late fees." The line went dead. I stared at my phone, hands shaking. $12,000. 3 months of rent on a luxury apartment I'd helped them get because they begged me to, because they were family. My phone buzzed with a text from Paige, my best friend. "Coffee in an hour? You sound like you need it." I'd apparently called her without realizing it. The whole conversation was a blur of panic and rage. An hour later, I was sitting across from Paige at our usual spot, watching her face darken as I explained the situation. "Let me get this straight," she said, stirring her latte with more force than necessary. "Your parents convinced you to co-sign for an apartment you can't afford, then just stopped paying rent?" "Apparently." "And now you're on the hook for 12 grand? Plus late fees." Paige set down her spoon with a sharp clink. "Alexis, you cannot let them do this to you again." "What do you mean, again?" "Come on, the car loan when you were 19, the credit card they opened in your name for emergencies, the money you lent them for your dad's business that mysteriously disappeared. They've been using you as their personal ATM for years." She was right, but hearing it out loud made my chest tight. "They're my parents, Paige." "So? That doesn't give them the right to destroy your credit and leave you holding the bag." I pulled up my credit monitoring app with trembling fingers. The number that greeted me made me physically sick. My perfect 780 credit score, the one I'd spent years building, the one that was supposed to get me my own place, my own life, was now sitting at 620 and dropping. "Oh God," I whispered. Paige leaned over to look at my phone. "Jesus, Alexis, this is bad. I have to call them. Maybe there's an explanation. Maybe nothing. You need to march over there and demand answers." 2 hours later, I was standing outside the apartment I'd helped them get. My key still worked, small mercies. I could hear laughter and music from inside. Lots of voices. I opened the door to find my parents hosting what looked like a dinner party. Wine glasses everywhere, expensive cheese and crackers spread across the granite countertop, at least 8 people I didn't recognize lounging in the living room. The conversation died when they saw me. "Alexis!" My mother's voice was bright, performative. "What a surprise! Everyone, this is my daughter I was telling you about. Mom, we need to talk. Now. Oh, honey, can't it wait? We're entertaining. The landlord called me this morning. 3 months of unpaid rent, Mom. $12,000. The room went silent. My father, Rocco, looked down at his wineglass like it held the secrets of the universe. Giselle's smile never wavered. Well, that's unfortunate, but you're the one on the lease, sweetie. Sounds like your problem now. Then she laughed. Actually laughed. And that's when I knew exactly what I had to do. The dinner guests shuffled out within minutes, mumbling awkward goodbyes and avoiding eye contact. My mother's performance smile finally cracked. Look what you've done, she hissed once the door closed. You've embarrassed us in front of our friends. Your friends? Mom, you haven't paid rent in 3 months. How are you affording wine and fancy cheese? That's none of your business. It is when my name is on the lease. My father finally looked up from his wineglass. Alexis, you're being dramatic. We'll figure something out. Dramatic? I pulled out my phone and showed them my credit score. This is dramatic? My entire financial future is ruined because of you two. Giselle waved her hand dismissively. Credit scores bounce back. You're young. I'm 26, Mom. I was supposed to buy my own place this year. I've been saving for 5 years. Well, maybe this will teach you some patience. The casual cruelty in her voice hit me like a slap. This wasn't the first time they'd used me, but it was the first time I could see it so clearly. When I was 16, Giselle had opened a credit card in my name for emergencies. The emergencies turned out to be shopping sprees and spa days. When I found out at 18, she cried and promised to pay it off. She never did. At 19, they needed me to co-sign for a car loan because Dad's credit was temporarily affected by some business deal gone wrong. The car got repossessed 8 months later when they stopped making payments. At 22, they borrowed $3,000 for Dad's sure thing investment opportunity. I never saw a penny back. Each time they'd made me feel guilty for even asking about the money. Each time I'd told myself it was just family helping family. You know what, Mom? You're right. This is my problem now. I stood up, grabbing my purse, which means I get to solve it my way. What's that supposed to mean? Rocco asked. It means I'm done being your safety net. Giselle laughed again, that sharp sound that had haunted my childhood. Oh, please, Alexis. What are you going to do? You've never stood up to anyone in your life. I walked to the door, then turned back. We'll see. The next morning, my phone started ringing at 6 a.m. Viviana again. I meant what I said yesterday. I need my money or I'm filing eviction papers. I understand. Can you give me 48 hours? Why should I? Because I'm going to fix this, but I need a little time to figure out how. There was a long pause. 48 hours, Alexis. That's it. I called in sick to work and spent the day researching tenant rights and eviction laws. By noon, I had 3 legal aid officers on speed dial and a notebook full of questions. Paige met me for lunch, taking one look at my face and ordering us both double shots of espresso. You look like you haven't slept. I haven't. Paige, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest. Always am. Am I crazy for wanting to fight back? Everyone always says family is family, blood is thicker than water, all that stuff. But they've been bleeding me dry for years. Paige leaned forward. You want to know what that saying actually means? The blood of the covenant is thicker than the water of the womb. It means the bonds you choose are stronger than the ones you're born with. I never heard it that way. Most people haven't, but it's true. Your parents chose to screw you over. Now you get to choose how to respond. My phone buzzed with a text from my mother. Stop being childish. Come over so we can talk like adults. I showed Paige the message. She snorted. Adults? Adults pay their rent. That afternoon, I drove back to the apartment. This time, I knocked. Giselle opened the door wearing a silk robe and full makeup at 3 in the afternoon. I'm glad you came to your senses. I want to see the lease. What? The lease agreement. I want to read exactly what I signed. She hesitated. It's just standard paperwork, honey. Nothing you need to worry about. Then you won't mind showing me. Rocco appeared behind her, looking uncomfortable. Giselle, just get the papers. Fine. She disappeared into the bedroom and came back with a folder. Here, happy now? I read through the lease carefully, my heart sinking with each line. I was listed as the primary tenant. My parents were listed as additional occupants. My credit had qualified us for the apartment. My signature was on every page. This says I'm responsible for all rent payments. Well, yes, but we discussed that you would pay the rent and I would just be the co-signer. This makes me the actual tenant. Giselle's eyes narrowed. What's your point? My point is that if I'm the tenant, I have tenant rights. Meaning what, exactly? I folded the lease and put it in my purse, meaning I need to make some phone calls. As I walked to my car, I heard my mother calling after me. Alexis, don't do anything stupid. You'll regret this. But for the first time in years, I didn't feel like I was the one about to make a mistake. I had one more stop to make before I called those legal aid officers. I needed to see exactly how deep this betrayal went. The credit alert hit my phone at 2 a.m., another 30-point drop. I sat on my bathroom floor and cried until my eyes burned. By morning, I'd made a decision that would have terrified me a week ago. I called the first legal aid office on my list. Legal Aid Society, this is Samara. Hi, I need help with a tenant issue. My parents are living in an apartment I'm legally responsible for, but they've stopped paying rent. Can you come in today? I have an opening at 2. Samara's office was cramped and cluttered, but she had kind eyes and a no-nonsense attitude that immediately put me at ease. Tell me everything, she said, pulling out a legal pad. I explained the whole situation. The co-signing, the unpaid rent, my parents' dismissive attitude. Samara took notes, occasionally asking clarifying questions. Let me see the lease, she said when I finished. I handed over the papers I'd taken from my parents. Samara read through them carefully, her eyebrows rising. Alexis, do you understand what this means? That I'm screwed? No, that you have options. She leaned forward. You're not just a co-signer. You're the primary tenant. That means you have all the rights of a tenant, including the right to determine who lives in the apartment. What are you saying? I'm saying you can evict your own parents. The words hit me like a physical shock. I can what? If you pay the back rent and bring the lease current, you become the tenant in good standing. Then you can serve them with a 30-day notice to vacate. But they're my parents. Legally, that doesn't matter. They're unauthorized occupants living in your apartment without paying rent. I stared at her. How much would it cost to bring the lease current? $12,000 plus late fees, probably around $14,000 total. My entire savings account. Everything I'd worked for. But if I didn't pay it, my credit would be destroyed anyway, and I'd still owe the money. If I do this, if I pay the rent and evict them, what happens then? Then you have a clean lease, and they have to find somewhere else to live. And if I don't? Then you'll all get evicted, your credit will be ruined, and you'll still owe the money. Plus an eviction on your record. I sat in silence for a long moment. How do I start? Samara smiled. First, we pay the landlord, then we serve papers. 2 hours later, I was sitting in Viviana's office with a cashier's check for $14,300. My life savings, gone in one signature. I have to admit I'm impressed, Viviana said, filing the payment receipt. Most people in your situation would have just walked away. I couldn't do that. No, but your parents could, and did. She leaned back in her chair. For what it's worth, I think you're doing the right thing. They've been treating this place like a hotel. What do you mean? The noise complaints, the parties, the attitude when I try to discuss the rent. Your mother actually told me last week that successful people don't worry about money. My stomach twisted. She said that? While wearing a designer dress and carrying a purse that cost more than most people's rent, I drove home in a daze. $14,000 gone. But Samara's words kept echoing in my head. You have options. That evening, Paige came over with takeout and wine. "You look different," she said, studying my face. "I paid the rent." "All of it?" "All of it. And I'm evicting them." Paige nearly choked on her wine. "You're what?" I explained what Samara had told me, watching Paige's expression shift from shock to something that looked like pride. "Holy shit, Alexis, you're actually doing it." "I'm terrified." "Good. That means it matters." The next morning, I met Samara at the courthouse to file the eviction paperwork. The clerk was efficient and professional, treating it like any other business transaction, which I realized it was. "The notice needs to be served in person," Samara explained as we walked back to her car. "You can do it yourself, or we can hire a process server." "I'll do it myself." "Are you sure? It might be easier." "No, this is something I need to do." That afternoon, I stood outside the apartment door with the official 30-day notice in my hand. My hand shook as I knocked. Giselle opened the door, still in her silk robe. "Alexis, I was just about to call you. We need to discuss." "I'm here to serve you with an eviction notice." Her face went blank. "A what?" I handed her the papers. "You have 30 days to vacate the premises." She stared at the documents like they were written in a foreign language. "This is a joke, right?" "No joke, Mom." Rocco appeared behind her. "What's going on?" "Your daughter has lost her mind," Giselle said, waving the papers. "She thinks she can evict us." "I don't think I can. I know I can. I paid the back rent. I'm the primary tenant. You're unauthorized occupants." Giselle's face twisted with rage. "You ungrateful little bitch. After everything we've done for you." "What exactly have you done for me? Besides ruin my credit and steal my money?" She stepped closer, her voice dropping to a venomous whisper. "You think you're so smart? You think you can just throw us out on the street? I think you should have thought about that before you stopped paying rent." Giselle looked at the papers again, then slowly tore them in half. The pieces fluttered to the floor. "There. Problem solved." I pulled out my phone and took a picture of the torn papers at her feet. "Actually, Mom, you just made this a lot easier for me." Her smile faltered. "What do you mean?" "I mean I have 30 more copies, and now I have photo evidence that you refused service and destroyed legal documents." For the first time in my life, I saw fear in my mother's eyes. "You're bluffing," Giselle said, but her voice had lost its usual confidence. I pulled another copy of the eviction notice from my bag and held it out. "Try me." She slapped it out of my hand. "I raised you, I fed you, clothed you, put a roof over your head for 18 years, and this is how you repay me? By holding you accountable for your actions? Yeah, Mom, this is exactly how I repay you." Rocco finally spoke up. "Alexis, honey, let's all calm down and talk about this like adults." "Adults pay their bills, Dad. Adults don't steal from their children." "We didn't steal anything," Giselle snapped. "We asked for help and you agreed. I agreed to co-sign so you could get the apartment. I didn't agree to pay your rent while you throw dinner parties." "Those weren't parties. They were networking events." "With what money? You haven't paid rent in 3 months, but you can afford wine and catered food?" Giselle's face flushed red. "How we spend our money is none of your business. It is when you're spending it instead of paying rent on my lease." I bent down and picked up another copy of the notice, holding it out again. This time, Rocco took it. 30 days, I said. "That's more than fair." "Fair?" Giselle's voice rose to a shriek. "You want to talk about fair? Fair would be remembering that we're your parents. Fair would be showing some gratitude for everything we've sacrificed for you." "What exactly did you sacrifice, Mom?" "Because from where I'm standing, it looks like I'm the one who's been sacrificing. My credit, my savings, my future." "We gave you life, and I've been paying for it ever since." The words hung in the air like a slap. Giselle's mouth opened and closed like a fish. Rocco cleared his throat. "Maybe we can work something out. A payment plan or—" "No." My voice was steadier than I felt. You had 3 months to work something out. You chose to ignore the problem and let me deal with the consequences. So what, you're just going to throw us out on the street? Giselle had switched tactics, her voice now trembling with manufactured vulnerability. You'll figure something out. You always do. We don't have anywhere to go. That's not my problem anymore. Giselle's mask slipped completely. You little bitch. You think you're so much better than us, don't you? Miss Perfect with your fancy job and your credit score. Well, let me tell you something. Mom, stop. But she was on a roll now, years of resentment pouring out. You were an accident. Did you know that? We never wanted kids, but we kept you anyway, and we did our best, and this is how you thank us. The words should have hurt more than they did. Instead, I felt something like relief. Finally, the truth. You're right, I said quietly. You did keep me, and you've been making me pay for that decision my entire life. I turned to leave, but Giselle grabbed my arm. Don't you dare walk away from me. Let go of me. Or what? You'll call the police on your own mother? I looked down at her hand on my arm, then back at her face. If I have to. She released me like I'd burned her. 30 days, I repeated, heading for the door. This isn't over, Giselle called after me. You think you can just cut us out of your life? We're your family. We'll always be your family. I paused at the door. No, Mom. Family doesn't do what you've done to me. You're just people I happen to share DNA with. I was halfway to my car when I heard shouting from inside the apartment. Through the thin walls, I could make out Giselle screaming at Rocco, blaming him for not stopping me, for not standing up to me, for being weak. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Your parents are telling everyone what a terrible daughter you are. Thought you should know. Aunt Marie. Then another. Can't believe you're evicting your own parents. Shame on you. Cousin Beth. And another. Your mom is crying. How could you do this to family? Uncle Tony? I turned off my phone and drove to Paige's apartment. They're already starting the smear campaign, I said, showing her the texts when she opened the door. Of course they are. It's classic manipulation. Make you the villain so no one asks why they weren't paying rent. Maybe I am the villain. Alexis, look at me. Paige grabbed my shoulders. You paid $14,000 to clean up their mess. You gave them 30 days' notice instead of the legal minimum. You are not the villain here. Then why do I feel so awful? Because they trained you to feel awful whenever you stand up for yourself. It's going to take time to unlearn that. My phone buzzed again. This time it was Samara. How did the service go? She tore up the papers and called me names, but I got it on video. Perfect. That actually helps our case. Are you ready for the next step? What's the next step? We wait, and we document everything. If they don't leave voluntarily, we go to court. After I hung up, Paige poured us both wine. So what happens now? Now I find out if they'll actually leave, or if I'll have to force them out. What do you think they'll do? I thought about the rage in my mother's eyes, the way she'd torn up the papers like they were meaningless. I think they're going to make this as ugly as possible. Good thing you're ready for ugly. For the first time in days, I smiled. Yeah, I think I am. The harassment started the next morning. My phone rang at 6 a.m. Aunt Marie. Alexis, your mother is beside herself. How could you do this to your own parents? Did she tell you they haven't paid rent in 3 months? That's between you and them. Family doesn't air dirty laundry. Family also doesn't destroy each other's credit. You're being selfish. They raised you. I hung up. By noon, I'd received 12 calls from various relatives, all with the same script. Giselle had been busy. Paige met me for lunch, taking one look at my face and ordering us both strong drinks. Let me guess, the guilt brigade? Every aunt, uncle, and cousin I haven't spoken to in years suddenly cares deeply about family values. What are you going to do? Nothing. Let them think what they want. But that afternoon, Samara called with news that changed everything. I did some digging on your parents' financial situation, she said. You might want to sit down for this. What did you find? They signed a lease on another apartment 3 weeks ago. The words hit me like a physical blow. What? A 2-bedroom place across town. Move-in date is next Friday. But they're acting like they have nowhere to go. Because they want you to feel guilty. They've had an exit strategy this whole time. I sat in my car outside Samara's office, staring at the documents she'd given me. A lease agreement with both my parents' signatures, dated 3 weeks ago. Security deposit paid in full. They'd been planning to leave all along. The tears, the guilt trips, the family smear campaign, all theater. I drove straight to the apartment, my hands shaking with rage. Giselle answered the door with red-rimmed eyes and tissues in her hand. Oh, Alexis, I'm so glad you're here. I've been crying all day thinking about... I held up the lease documents. Cut the act, Mom. Her face went white. Where did you get those? Does it matter? You've had another place lined up for weeks. That's not what it looks like. It looks like you've been lying to me and everyone else, making me out to be the monster while you had a backup plan the whole time. Rocco appeared behind her, saw the papers in my hand, and actually flinched. We can explain, he said weakly. Explain what? That you've been manipulating me? That you turned my entire family against me while you were planning to leave anyway? We needed options, Giselle said, her victim act crumbling. We couldn't just trust that you'd do the right thing. The right thing? I paid $14,000 to clean up your mess. And we appreciate that, but nothing. You've been playing games while I've been trying to save all of us from eviction. Look, we'll move out early, Rocco said. No need to make this uglier than it has to be. Uglier? I laughed, but there was no humor in it. Dad, you haven't seen ugly yet. I pulled out my phone and started dialing. Who are you calling? Giselle demanded. Aunt Marie, Uncle Tony, Cousin Beth, everyone who called me today to tell me what a terrible daughter I am. Alexis, don't... Hello, Aunt Marie. It's Alexis. I wanted to let you know that Mom and Dad have had another apartment lined up for weeks. Yeah, the whole nowhere to go thing was a lie. Giselle lunged for my phone, but I stepped back. Oh, and they're moving out Friday anyway, so all that guilt about throwing them on the street? Also a lie. Hang up that phone right now, Giselle hissed. Why? Isn't this what you wanted? The whole family involved in our business? I ended the call and immediately dialed the next number. Uncle Tony? Yeah, it's Alexis. Funny story about Mom and Dad being homeless. By the time I finished the third call, both my parents looked like they wanted to disappear into the floor. There, I said, putting my phone away. Now everyone knows the truth. You vindictive little... Careful, Mom. I'm still recording everything. She snapped her mouth shut. Here's what's going to happen, I continued. You're going to move out by Friday like you planned. You're going to stop telling people I'm a terrible daughter, and you're going to leave me alone. Or what? Giselle's voice was barely a whisper. Or I'll make sure everyone knows exactly what kind of parents you really are. The credit cards you opened in my name, the loans you defaulted on, the money you've stolen over the years, all of it. Rocco stepped forward. Alexis, we're still your parents. No, Dad. Parents protect their children. They don't exploit them. You're just two people who happened to raise me, and you did a pretty terrible job of that too. I headed for the door, then turned back one last time. Oh, and Mom, next time you want to play victim, make sure you don't leave evidence lying around. Samara says hi. I walked out to the sound of my mother screaming at my father, blaming him for everything, just like always. My phone was already ringing, Aunt Marie calling back. I let it go to voicemail. For the first time in weeks, I felt like I could breathe. Friday came and went. My parents didn't move out. Saturday morning, I drove by the apartment. Their car was still in the parking lot. The blinds were drawn, but I could see lights on inside. I called Samara immediately. They're still there. What do I do now? Now we go to court. I'll file the paperwork Monday morning. How long will that take? 2 weeks, maybe 3. But Alexis, once we do this, there's no going back. Are you sure? I thought about the lease they'd hidden from me, the lies they'd told the family, the $14,000 of my money they'd let me spend while planning their escape. I'm sure. The court hearing was scheduled for a Wednesday morning. I took the day off work and met Samara at the courthouse at 8 a.m. Remember, she said as we walked up the steps, stick to the facts. Don't let them bait you into an emotional response. What if they try to make me look bad? They will try, but we have documentation. They have excuses. The courtroom was smaller than I'd expected, more like a conference room than the dramatic setting I'd imagined. Judge Martinez looked tired and slightly annoyed as she shuffled through the morning's cases. Harrison versus Harrison, the clerk called. My parents were already seated at the defendant's table. Giselle wore a conservative black dress and had toned down her makeup to look more sympathetic. Rocco sat beside her in an ill-fitting suit, staring at his hands. This is an eviction proceeding, Judge Martinez said, looking over her glasses at all of us. Ms. Harrison, you're seeking to evict your own parents? Yes, Your Honor. That's unusual. Explain the circumstances. I stood up, my voice steadier than I felt. Your Honor, I co-signed a lease to help my parents secure housing. They stopped paying rent 3 months ago, which damaged my credit and left me liable for the debt. I paid the back rent to avoid eviction and served them with proper notice, which they ignored. And you're the primary tenant on the lease? Yes, Your Honor. Samara handed me the lease documents. My name is listed first, and my credit qualified us for the apartment. Judge Martinez reviewed the papers. Mr. and Mrs. Harrison, what's your response? Giselle stood up, and I could see her switching into performance mode. Your Honor, this is our daughter. We raised her, sacrificed for her, and now she's trying to throw us out on the street over a misunderstanding about money. A misunderstanding? We've been going through a difficult financial period. We asked Alexis to help us temporarily, and she agreed. Now she's changed her mind and wants to punish us. Did you pay rent for the months in question? Giselle hesitated. We were waiting for some money to come through. That's a no. Did you respond to the eviction notice served by your daughter? We tried to discuss it with her, but she wouldn't listen to reason. Judge Martinez looked at Samara. Do you have evidence of service? Samara stood up. Yes, Your Honor. We have video evidence of the defendants receiving and destroying the notice, as well as photographic evidence of the destroyed documents. She handed over my phone, which had the video queued up. Judge Martinez watched it, her expression growing more stern. Mrs. Harrison, I see you tearing up legal documents in this video. I was upset, Your Honor. Any mother would be upset to receive such papers from her own child. Being upset doesn't give you the right to destroy legal notices. Mr. Harrison, do you have anything to add? Rocco stood up slowly. Your Honor, we just need more time. We're working on finding another place. How much time have you had since receiving notice? About 3 weeks. And in those 3 weeks, have you secured alternative housing? I held my breath. This was the moment of truth. Rocco glanced at Giselle, who gave him a sharp look. We're still looking. Samara stood up again. Your Honor, we have evidence that the defendants signed a lease for another apartment 3 weeks ago with a move-in date that has already passed. She handed over the lease documents for their other apartment. Judge Martinez reviewed them, her eyebrows rising. Mr. and Mrs. Harrison, you signed a lease for another property 3 weeks ago? The courtroom was dead silent. Giselle's face had gone pale. That was just a backup plan, she stammered. A backup plan that you didn't mention when claiming you had nowhere to go? We weren't sure if it would work out. Judge Martinez set down the papers and looked directly at my parents. Let me make sure I understand this correctly. You stopped paying rent on your daughter's lease, forcing her to pay $14,000 to avoid eviction. You then claimed to have nowhere to go when served with eviction papers, while simultaneously having secured alternative housing. Is that accurate? Giselle opened her mouth, but no words came out. Your Honor, Rocco said quietly, we made some mistakes. Yes, you did, and now you're going to face the consequences. Judge Martinez picked up her gavel. I find in favor of the plaintiff. The defendants have 48 hours to vacate the premises. Sheriff's Department will enforce if necessary. The gavel came down with a sharp crack that echoed through the small courtroom. Giselle finally found her voice. This is ridiculous. She's our daughter. And you're her tenants, Judge Martinez replied. Court is adjourned. As we filed out, I heard Giselle hissing at Rocco. This is all your fault. You should have fought harder. But for once, my father didn't take the blame silently. No, Giselle, this is what we deserve. Thursday morning at 9 a.m. sharp, Sheriff Walker arrived at the apartment complex with 2 deputies and a moving truck. I was waiting in the parking lot with the new keys Viviana had given me. You're Alexis? Walker asked, checking his paperwork. Yes, sir. This is never easy, but we'll handle it professionally. You ready? I nodded, though my stomach was churning. Walker knocked on the door. Sheriff's Department, open up. No answer. He knocked harder. This is Sheriff Walker. We have a court order for eviction. Open the door or we'll open it for you. Finally, the door cracked open. Rocco stood there in pajamas and a bathrobe, looking like he'd aged 10 years overnight. We need more time, he said quietly. Time's up, Walker replied, not unkindly. You have 30 minutes to gather personal items. Everything else goes to storage. Storage? Paid storage for 30 days. After that, it's your responsibility. Giselle appeared behind Rocco, her hair wild and her makeup smeared. This is harassment. She's our daughter. Mom, I'm just enforcing a court order. You can gather personal items now, or we can do this without you. Personal items? This is our home. Not according to the lease and the judge's ruling. I stepped forward. Mom, just take what you need. The rest will be safe in storage. She whirled on me. Don't you dare act like you're doing us a favor. You did this. You destroyed our family. I didn't destroy anything. I just stopped letting you destroy me. Walker cleared his throat. Ladies, we need to keep this moving. 30 minutes starts now. What followed was the most surreal half hour of my life. My parents scrambled to pack suitcases while the moving crew waited outside. Giselle kept up a steady stream of accusations and guilt trips. You'll regret this for the rest of your life, she said, stuffing clothes into a garbage bag. When you're old and alone, you'll remember what you did to your own parents. Maybe, I said, but I'll also remember what you did to me. Rocco moved more slowly, carefully packing a few photo albums and his books. He avoided eye contact with everyone. Dad, I said quietly, when Giselle was in the bedroom ranting at the deputies. He looked up, and I saw tears in his eyes. I'm sorry it came to this, I said. No, you're not, and you shouldn't be. He closed the photo album he was holding. We did this to ourselves, Alexis. I should have stopped her years ago. Why didn't you? Because it was easier to let her use you than to deal with her anger myself. He stood up, the album tucked under his arm. I'm a coward, always have been. Time's up, Walker announced. Giselle emerged from the bedroom, dragging 2 suitcases and a makeup case. This is insane. We can't fit our whole life into a few bags. The rest goes to storage, Walker repeated patiently. Here's the address and your access information. The moving crew filed in and began systematically removing furniture. I watched them carry out the expensive couch my parents had bought instead of paying rent, the dining room set they'd use for their dinner parties, the big screen TV they'd purchased while ignoring calls from the landlord. "Where are we supposed to go?" Giselle demanded. "You have that other apartment," I said. "We can't move in until next week. The previous tenant hasn't moved out yet." "That's not my problem. So we're supposed to live in a hotel. You should have thought of that before you stopped paying rent." Walker approached me with a clipboard. "We need you to do a final walkthrough and sign off on the condition of the property." I walked through the apartment with him, noting the wine stain on the carpet, the scratches on the hardwood floors, the hole in the bathroom wall where Rocco had hung a heavy mirror incorrectly. "Looks like normal wear and tear, plus a few issues," Walker said. "Nothing too serious." As we finished the paperwork, the moving truck pulled away. My parents stood on the sidewalk with their suitcases, looking lost. Giselle made one last attempt. "Alexis, please. We're your parents. You can't just abandon us." "I'm not abandoning you. I'm setting boundaries." "This isn't boundaries. This is cruelty." "No, Mom. Cruelty is what you've been doing to me for years. This is consequences." I walked past them toward the apartment building. At the entrance, I turned back. "You have my number if there's a real emergency, but I'm done being your safety net." Walker handed me the keys. "It's all yours now." I climbed the stairs to the second floor and unlocked the door to my apartment. The space felt enormous and empty without my parents' belongings filling it. In the bedroom, I found something that made me stop cold. On the floor beside the closet was a small wooden jewelry box I'd made in middle school shop class. I'd given it to my mother for her birthday when I was 13, and she'd told me it was the most beautiful thing she'd ever seen. I'd assumed she'd lost it years ago, but here it was, abandoned on the floor like trash. I picked it up and opened it. Inside was a folded piece of paper, a Mother's Day card I'd made when I was 8. "To the best mom in the world," it said in my childish handwriting. "I love you more than ice cream." For the first time since this whole ordeal began, I cried. Not from guilt or regret, but from grief for the relationship that could have been, for the mother I'd wanted her to be, for the daughter I'd tried so hard to be. I closed the jewelry box and set it on the windowsill. Some things were worth keeping, even if they hurt. Outside, I could see my parents loading their suitcases into their car. Giselle was still gesturing angrily, probably planning her next move. But Rocco just looked tired. I had won, but victory felt heavier than I'd expected. The apartment felt different once I started making it mine. Paige helped me move my furniture in over the weekend, and we spent Sunday afternoon painting the bedroom walls a soft blue that actually made me smile. "You know what this place needs?" Paige said, stepping back to admire our work. "What?" "A housewarming party. A real one, not whatever performance your mother was putting on." "I don't know if I'm ready for that." "You don't have to be ready, you just have to be willing." Monday morning, Viviana called while I was getting ready for work. "Alexis, I wanted to discuss your lease terms. Given everything that's happened, I'd like to offer you a reduced rent rate and help you rebuild your credit." "That's very generous, but..." "It's not generosity, it's good business. You're the kind of tenant I want. Responsible, communicative, willing to solve problems instead of creating them." "Thank you. That means a lot." "There's something else. I've been a landlord for 15 years, and I've seen a lot of family drama play out in my properties. What you did took courage." After we hung up, I sat in my kitchen drinking coffee and looking out at the view I'd helped my parents get, but never enjoyed myself. For the first time in months, I felt something like peace. That afternoon, my phone rang. Unknown number. "Hello? Alexis, it's Dad." I almost hung up. "What do you want, Rocco?" "I wanted to tell you that we're moved into the new place, and I wanted to apologize." "For what, specifically?" "For all of it. For letting your mother use you. For not standing up for you. For being a coward." I waited, but he didn't continue. "Is that it?" "I know it's not enough. I know sorry doesn't fix your credit or give you back your money. But I needed you to know that I see what we did to you." "Where's Mom?" "She's..." not speaking to me right now. She blames me for not fighting harder in court. Of course she does. She's telling everyone who'll listen that you're vindictive and ungrateful, but I'm not backing her up anymore. That surprised me. You're not? No, I'm tired, Alexis, tired of making excuses for her, tired of watching her hurt people and pretending it's justified. So what are you going to do about it? I don't know yet, but I'm not going to keep enabling her. We sat in silence for a moment. Dad, I need you to understand something. I'm not going to be your safety net anymore, either of you. I know, and I don't expect you to be. Good, because if you call me asking for money or help with Mom's schemes, I'll hang up. I understand. Do you? Because this is the part where you usually promise to do better and then nothing changes. Things are already changing. I opened my own bank account yesterday. First time in 20 years, your mother doesn't have access to my money. That was something, at least. I have to go, I said. Alexis, wait. I know I don't have the right to ask, but are you okay? The question caught me off guard. When was the last time either of my parents had asked if I was okay? I'm getting there. Good. That's good. Wednesday evening, Paige came over with takeout and wine. So I heard through the family grapevine that your mom is having a hard time adjusting to the new place, she said, settling onto my couch. Family grapevine? My cousin works with your Aunt Marie. Apparently your mom called her crying because the new apartment doesn't have granite countertops. I snorted. Of course that's what she's upset about. Oh, it gets better. She also complained that they had to pay first month's rent, last month's rent, and a security deposit all at once. Like that's not how renting works. She's probably never had to pay her own deposits before. Probably not, but here's the really good part. Aunt Marie told her to call you for help, and your mom had to admit that you'd cut her off. How did that go over? Let's just say the family is starting to ask questions about why their golden boy and his wife suddenly need financial help. I poured myself more wine. I should probably feel bad about that. Should you? They spent years making you look like the problem child while they were the ones creating chaos. True. Besides, you're not responsible for managing their reputation. That's their job. The next morning, I got a text from an unknown number. This is your mother. I'm willing to forgive you and move past this if you apologize and help us with the deposit for our storage unit. I screenshot the message and sent it to Paige with the caption, "Some people never learn." Then I blocked the number. That weekend, I threw my housewarming party. Nothing fancy, just Paige, a few coworkers, and some neighbors from the building. We ordered pizza, played music, and laughed until my sides hurt. To Alexis, Paige said, raising her glass, for finally putting herself first. To new beginnings, I replied. As everyone was leaving, my neighbor from across the hall lingered. I just wanted to say, I'm glad you're here, she said. The previous tenants were a lot. Yeah, I heard they could be difficult. Difficult is one word for it. The parties, the noise, the drama in the hallways. It's been so peaceful since they left. Standing in my doorway, keys in my hand, I looked out at the life I'd built for myself. It wasn't the life I'd planned. It was smaller, lonelier, more expensive than I'd wanted, but it was mine. My phone buzzed with a text from Rocco. Saw your housewarming party on Paige's social media. The apartment looks good. I'm proud of you. I stared at the message for a long time before responding. Thanks. It wasn't forgiveness, but it wasn't hatred either. It was something new. Boundaries with room for possibility. I locked my door and turned off the lights. Tomorrow I'd wake up in my own space, make my own decisions, live with my own consequences. Sometimes family means the people who raised you. Sometimes it means the people who choose to stay when things get hard. And sometimes it means learning to be family to yourself first. The apartment was quiet, but it wasn't empty. It was full of potential,